Goodtime Center Parts Department. One of the questions we get asked up here most often is, how do I maintain the chain on my motorcycle? What's the proper way to apply chain lubricant? What should I be using as chain lubricant? Now, for most motorcycles, such as the Triumph and most sport bikes, a chain and sprockets is a crucial part of the bike. It keeps you moving as well as makes sure that your ride stays smooth, and it's exactly what you need to take care of. Non-properly maintained chain can cause damage to not only your motorcycle, vehicles behind you, and also possibly your riding buddies. So you're going to want to make sure that everything's good that way there. Chain maintenance is really not that difficult, and if you take about 15 minutes every now and then, 400 to 500 kilometers of riding, make sure that your bike runs smoothly and that you're going to have a great day doing it. So not only is an ill-proper chain going to cause issues if it breaks and you're going to have problems riding, but it's also going to cause problems to itself. It's going to cause excessive heat. Whenever it causes excessive heat, the chain's going to elongate, meaning you're going to have to replace it more often. Now, for most bikes, a chain can run anywhere between $130 and $280, so it's not a very financially viable option to be replacing chains all the time. Whenever for $20 you can pick up a good quality chain lubricant, about $10 you can pick up a really good chain cleaner and make sure that everything is cleaned and lubricated, and you're not going to cause any excessive heat to the chain. By doing that as well, you're going to expose your rollers to the elements, which can cause rusting. Again, another cause to have to replace the chain, and you're going to have to replace your sprockets, because an improperly maintained chain is going to cause sprocket damage, such as valleying or pitting. By doing that, again, most bikes run anywhere between about $35 for a front sprocket and $40 to $90 for a rear sprocket, depending on the quality of sprocket you're going for. So again, by taking 20 minutes of your time and making sure that your chain is properly cared for, you can save yourself a couple $100 here and there. By doing so, that's a couple sets of tires. So if you're doing track days, chain maintenance will make sure that you can do more track days. If you're an occasional weekend rider, that's more gas money in your pocket, so you can go farther on the weekend sort of thing. So that's something you're going to want to make sure of. The question always comes down to, well, what chain lubricant should I use? It varies bike to bike and rider to rider. Really depends on what your riding style is. If you're riding motocross, you're going to want to go with a wet-based lubricant, because what happens is with a wet-based lube, it flings all the mud and dirt off of the chain, so that way there it doesn't get into the rollers. Mud and dirt's an abrasive, so it can cause damage to the rollers if it stays in there for too long, and can cause chain damage, which is just as bad as not lubricating it in the first. If you're a sport bike rider, or if you're just a street rider on a cruiser, you're going to want to stay with a dry-based lubricant for a couple reasons. One, you don't have to worry about dirt and mud getting in the chain and causing any damage. And two, it's cleaner. You won't have to clean it off the bike itself as often, because it's not going to be flinging off the chain. So then the question's always asked is, well, how do you properly lubricate the chain? Well, to properly lubricate it, you got to clean it properly first. So if you go with something with a good quality chain cleaner, WTK, Kerosene Works, or Triox as well, and a chain brush, in a pinch you can also use a toothbrush if you wanted to. It just takes a little bit longer. Chain brush has three sides to it, so the nice thing about it is it gets the top of the rollers, the bottom rollers, and the side plates as well in one swoop. So instead of with a toothbrush where you'd have to get, top, side, and bottom with your hand at every angle, this just makes it a little bit easier for you and speeds up the process a little bit. Basically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hit the chain with a chain cleaner down here. And by doing so, what you're going to do is you're going to spray the chain cleaner on the chain. You're going to hit it with the chain brush and scrub it back and forth and make sure that the lubricant's coming loose. So by doing so, you're going to spray it, you're going to turn the wheel, and keep spraying your chain cleaner, keep brushing it back and forth. You're going to see the lubricant drip off, so if you're in a spot where you shouldn't be doing this in a motel parking lot, put down some rags that you've taken from the gas station. That way there, everybody's happy. Then after you've completely sprayed the chain with chain lubricant or chain cleaner, and you've brushed the chain down, take a rag and run the rag through your hand on the bottom, and that way there you'll get rid of all the excess chain cleaner. Next step, and it's always a little controversial, is take the bike for a ride for about 5 or 10 minutes and heat the chain up. Now, I know I just told you not to ride without chain lubricant, but 5 minutes is going to allow the chain to heat up a little bit and stretch. Whenever you do that, what it's going to do is whenever you get back into the parking lot or into your garage, throw the bike back up on the stand and then hit it with the chain lubricant to the top of the bottom portion of the chain, so you get your rollers, and then allow the bike to sit for 15 to 20 minutes. What that's going to allow the chain to do is suck all of the lubricant into the chain and into the rollers. So as it contracts, lubricant gets pulled through and gravity does its thing as well. By letting it sit, you allow the chain lubricant to set, and by allowing it to set, it's not going to fling off as much. I mean, a dry-based lubricant's going to fling off just as much as a wet-based lube if you just spray it on top of a cold chain and then ride away. It's not allowed time to dry up and do what it's supposed to do. Something I am going to point out, and it does come up a whole lot, whenever you put the bike up on the stands, make sure you avoid the temptation to start the bike and run it in first gear and just maintain the chain that way. Because what happens is if you have a rag in your hands that gets caught in the sprocket, I mean, you can Google it if you want to, but there's plenty of pictures of guys that have had their hands sucked into the sprocket by doing something like that. Shouldn't be running the bike up on the stands. It can fall off, and if it falls off and the wheel's turning, it can shoot out in your driveway, cause a lot of damage. Whereas if you just put it up on here, turn it by hand, you're not going to worry about anything going wrong because it's not going to fall off, the engine's not idling, you're not going to get stuck in the chain. Which will avoid yourself some serious damage and potential embarrassment by putting it up that way as well. The better care you take of your chain, the better the bike's going to run, the better it's going to work for you, and it means the less trips to the garage. Less trips to the garage means more time riding means everybody's happy.